So really trying to take those thoughts captive, and how it alleviates the insecurity and the jealousy and the envy that comes is realizing, wait a minute, the truth is this: everything that God has made is beautiful. And if I see a young lady and she is beautiful, that doesn't mean that I'm not beautiful. And if she's good at this talent, that doesn't mean that I have to be good at that talent. And I'm actually speaking to the old me. I wrote something a long time ago. I called it Free to Enjoy the Butterflies. And basically what that was reminding me is something the Lord was teaching me, was the fact that everything he's made was beautiful. I don't have to compare who I am and what I do with what someone else was doing, because that would prevent so many opportunities for friendships and relationships because of my own insecurity, because of my own self-worth. And so you can tell a lot when someone feels secure with who they are based on them uplifting someone, right? And not in a bad way of saying, oh, you're just so good, I'm nothing. No. You're confident in who you are, and something we'll share is how beautiful a rose is, how beautiful a daisy is, how beautiful a gladiola is. All of those flowers are beautiful, but they don't look the same. The same thing I remember when the Lord was showing me about the beauty of how he's made each and every one of us. And hey, listen, I just turned 50, and I would love to tell you that goes away, the insecurity of comparing. It does not. There's other seasons that come up, like maybe someone's child is able to do this and your child is not doing. No, the enemy does not. I do not place my self-worth in being a wife. It's got to be in the way that God has made me.
And in what he's called you to do.
Exactly.
With your time.
Exactly.
I always love the rose comparison that you do. There's a rose and a tulip are both beautiful, but they don't look the same because they have different purposes.
Yes.
And I always love that comparison that you have. We have talked about why self-worth is important and how you can discover your self-worth in the identity that God gives you, and that he calls you loved, he calls you chosen, he calls you beloved.
Yes.
And it's good for you to go back to what is written and remind yourself of that truth. But it's also good to have some practical tips on what self-worth is. And you may even be asking, okay, I have a good understanding of what self-worth is, but how do I determine what my self-worth is? And like, how am I on a scale? Like, how do I actually value myself? And I'll be the first to tell you that can fluctuate in seasons too. There might be a particular season when you're like, okay, I know who I am, I know what I'm doing, and I know what I'm good at, and I'm confident in that, and I know that I'm loved by the Lord. And then something happens and that worth just plummets, and you're kind of stuck in this season of like anxiety and hardship, and you're questioning who you are and why God has you in this season. And I think that is particularly crucial for young ladies in seasons of transition. And I mean, really, 13 through 23, you're in a constant season of transition. You're going from middle school to high school, from high school to college to workforce. And then there's all that relationship struggle that's in between. There's just so much of you thinking all the time about who you are and who you're going to become and your place in this world. That I think it's really important to ground yourself in knowing what self-worth is before you enter those seasons of transitions or see them coming. And so to help with that, we've actually created a self-worth reflection. Under His Wings has as a tool a self-worth reflection. It's on our website. It's in a link below. It's on our Substack. And what that is it's just for you to take. We don't collect your data. We don't collect your answers. We're not interested in doing that. It's just simply a free tool for you to answer some basic questions and just kind of gauge where you are right now in this season. I know for me, I was in a season a couple months ago before we did the self-worth reflection where I was really experiencing a lot of anxiety, and that's not something that I really dealt with before, but for some reason it just kept coming and coming. And I was talking to my roommate about this. I was like, I've never felt this before. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And that was because my self-worth during those seasons was really low. And that was because we were in a season of transition here. And I was just like kind of rocking around wondering, what am I doing? What's going on? And that was really affecting my self-worth. But now we created the self-reflection, and as we were going through the questions and writing the questions and like tweaking it and making it better, I was able to assess and be like, if I had taken this reflection during that time, I would have been able to identify that sooner, and I wouldn't have had to essentially suffer for months on end with this anxiety, and I would have been able to nip that in the bud. And so this is something that I could see myself taking for the rest of my life, just in seasons of like, okay, like I may be sensing this anxiety, I may be sensing this depression, I may be sensing this season of transition, I may be kind of going down this spiral for a second. And it's really just a good grounding tool for you to assess where you are. And again, we don't collect your data. We're not interested in that. That's just simply for you and you alone and you and the Lord. And what you can do you have anything to say about this?
Well, I was going to say that, Paul talks about examine yourselves to see if you're in the faith, right? And so this is not an examination like a test. It's just a reflection for you, setting aside that time where you can sit down and be real with God and yourself and journal about it. Like, I am struggling in this area. And that is where the true growth happens, because you're being honest about it. And what you were saying earlier is sometimes we do have seasons maybe where we do struggle with our self-worth, but this right here, this tool will help us to identify what it is. And then also the Lord will help prune, because then we start to realize, remember he says, I am the vine, you are the branches. If a man abides in me and I am him, he produces much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. And so sometimes if you think about it, like if you think of a vineyard, he was thinking of a vineyard and all of the grapes, the branches get their nutrients from the vine. And so sometimes what happens is that vine will start to create its own roots. And if it creates its own roots, what ends up happening is these tiny little champagne grapes, right? Because they're not drawing from what the true essence of the vine, remember? So the vine dresser comes and he clips and he prunes out. So those times and seasons where we might feel that anxiety, remember, that it might come up. It's just indicating maybe we started to place our worth in something that we shouldn't have. So it's not necessarily, it's a good way of us examining where we're at. And those are for those, for all of us. And I'm saying that as a witness, because I have that time of asking the Lord.
And it's just a good tool for you to have in your back pocket for any season.
I'm really excited about being able to share this with everyone.
Me too.